was the most important thing you learned about sex before you did it? Use a condom, maybe. Avoid pregnancy. If you had good sex education, perhaps you learned about the importance of consent or something about love and relationships. But how many of you learned about pleasure? That sex, no matter how you have it, should actually kind of be enjoyable. Sex and masturbation are as old as humanity itself, and yet it's only recently that we've started to have an open discussion about pleasure. Now, sex education when you're very young focuses on things like STIs, pregnancy, what should go where and when. And we call this the plumbing and prevention model. It basically gives you the ingredients that you need to avoid complete disaster, but it doesn't really give you anything to aspire to. And then as we get older, sex advice in the media focuses on acts rather than pleasure. Here's 5 new positions to try, or 10 different ways to give a blowjob. And so we focus on what we should be doing rather than how we should be feeling. And it's bizarre, right? I mean, imagine if we treated food the same way that we treat sex. If you were taught that eating is about taking something, putting it in your mouth, chewing it, and swallowing it. And things in the media focused around different techniques for chewing or 10 different ways to hold a knife and fork. Without any of the context of the joy that food brings people, or that people have different tastes. Now, the pleasure we get from food is not from chewing and swallowing, just like the pleasure we get from sex is not about what goes where and when. Sex isn't about actions, it's about sensations and connections with other people. So what does this mean for the future of sex and the way that we develop new technology for pleasure? After all, when you hear about some weird new sex toy or an app or a sex robot that will fulfill your every desire, often the stories focus on what is going to happen. This thing will squeeze or vibrate, or it will connect with your pornography. And while all these features might be quite fun, what is important isn't actually what that sex tech does. What's important is how it feels and how it makes you explore the different meanings of pleasure to you. Now, 3 years ago, I started a company called MysteryVibe, and as part of my work, I researched trends in sex and pleasure. And I travel across the world, and I talk to so many different people about sex. It's a hard life. But time and time again, some of the same trends keep coming back, and I keep having conversations about them. First off, we are trying to seek a more realistic depiction of what life is really like in every aspect of our lives, whether it's seeing photography in the media that hasn't been photoshopped, or in period adverts seeing red blood instead of that weird blue liquid that you always see. And secondly, the way we're talking about gender is changing, and dramatically. We used to say, men like it this way, women like it this way, and they'll never enjoy the same stuff. But everywhere I go, we're starting to see more things that are genderless. Genderless fashion, even genderless sex toys. And the thread running through all the research that I've been doing and all the conversations I've been having is that people don't want to be labeled anymore. They want to look at things, look at products, look at companies, and work out exactly how those things work for them as people. So as we start to look more towards sex, how can we bring that idea into sex and technology? Well, I'd argue to understand this, we need to look at it very differently to how we're looking at other industries. Often the products or services or companies that are very successful find a problem and they propose some kind of neat solution. So, problem, I'm in a new city, I have no idea where to go, and taxis are kind of expensive. Solution, Uber or Lyft. Or problem, I want to watch my favorite TV show, but I hate waiting every week for a new episode to come out. Solution is Netflix. But with sex, that falls into a horribly old-school trap. It's plumbing and prevention. The solution and problem approach simply does not work when it comes to sex, because pleasure isn't a problem that needs to be solved. And that's where our sex education system is falling down. It treats sex as a problem, and it offers you a list of tips or advice on how to solve it. And in fact, when it comes to the bedroom, the most important role that technology is going to play is in helping us discover. Now, one of my favorite examples when it comes to this is virtual reality. And at the moment, virtual reality is only really used as something to make pornography better, see it in 3D rather than 2D. And at its most advanced, you can connect some kind of product up to your headset so you can feel what you're seeing. But in the future, as the price of this technology comes down, we'll start to see more real-time interactions. Now, while people use this as an example of how two people over a long distance could stay connected and enjoy things together, a really interesting question for me is what if we could have full romantic and sexual relationships entirely in virtual spaces? So you could put your headset on, you could connect it up with someone else, and you could go on a date. You could go to the cinema. You could go for a walk on Mars if you wanted to. And you could have sex. Now, if we are having these relationships in purely virtual spaces, we can start asking different questions. It's not about how does this virtual reality work? Yes, I put my headset on, I connect up and go. We can start asking questions like, how will my criteria for compatibility change? After all, if I'm never going to meet this person in real life, does it even matter what they look like? Does it matter what hair color they have, or eye color, or face shape, or body shape, or even gender? Does it matter what gender you have in virtual reality? You could have sex as someone with a completely different body shape or gender. And so we start asking ourselves different questions. What do I find sexy about someone's behavior? What are their erotic qualities beyond the physical? Now, I'm not just trying to update the old phrase, personality is more important than looks. But the real thing that this helps us discover is why technology, it doesn't matter what it does. It doesn't matter that you can connect it up to someone else. What matters is how it helps you question where you get your pleasure from, what you desire, and how you see your humanity and your identity. So how do we push forward from this? How do we make sure that the products and the technologies that we're developing in the future are helping us to ask more questions rather than telling us what to do and giving us instructions and assuming that everyone is exactly the same? Well, 3 years ago when we started our company MysteryVibe, we thought we'd found a problem. And the problem was that technology was creating this barrier to intimacy. You know how it is these days. We are constantly bombarded by texts, by notifications, by emails, by WhatsApp, by Facebook. And it becomes very difficult to switch off from your technology and switch on to your partner or the people around you. For some people, their phone is the last thing they touch at night and the first thing they touch in the morning. But the more we started to think about this, the more we started to question, is technology really the problem here? After all, your phone could be used for something pleasurable. You could watch a piece of erotica with your partner, or you could use an app that could explore different kinds of kinks or fetishes. So just as technology can help you send an email at 11 p.m. when something is going awfully wrong and your boss is chasing and chasing you, it also means that you can connect with people in places and in ways that you never would have been able to before. And when your parents or your grandparents tell you to put your phone down and have a real conversation with real people in the real world, they don't understand that that's exactly what you're doing. Technology is fundamentally about relationships. And so it's sex tech's job to facilitate these relationships, to make it easier to connect with your partner, and to make it easier to connect with the desires and the different pleasures that you might find. I mean, after all, when you go through your life and as you get older, what you desire and what you find pleasurable will change. It will change depending on your mood, depending on the person you're with, depending on what food you've eaten that day, and any number of other factors. So that old school instruction-led idea of sex and sex education is slowly disappearing. And in its place, sex technology will help us facilitate conversations, to engage more in sexuality, what it means to be human, what it means to be intimate. And so the next time you read that story about that crazy new sex toy, or that app, or that robot, Instead of asking, what does it do? Ask, how does it make me feel? How will it help me explore my desire and my pleasure in the future? And perhaps the next time you're in bed with your partner, instead of asking, what should I do? Ask them, how do you want me to make you feel? Thank you.